What is up, everybody? How are you doing today? My name's Michael. This is
John.
Your name is John.
I am John.
And welcome to the Fantasy Tap. Happy Friday, September 11th. We are very excited to have you here today. And boy, football season is back. We got to watch a game.
Yeah, we just finished up watching the Thursday night football game between the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was great. It was nice to watch. Wasn't as intense as some people would have hoped, but a beautiful fantasy football game for a lot of players.
Ton of fantasy relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relevancy.
Great game to start the season with. Extremely happy to be back here.
I love it. Love it. So happy it's football season. But anyways, welcome into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we're very happy to have you. We have a packed show today. But before we get into that, just want to touch on our beer of the day. We are drinking the Sante. I believe it's how you...
Sante?
Something like that.
There's a little asterisk over the E that probably adds some kind of flavor to the way
name?
you say it. Yeah,
so Sante, Belgian IPA from Lord Hobo Brewing Company out of Massachusetts. So far, pretty good. I enjoy it.
You enjoy it? Yeah.
Have you taken a sip yet?
I have. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it so far. Get into it a little bit.
Definitely. So, anyways, let's get into our show overview real quick. Like I said, we've got a ton of stuff to get you ready for this weekend of fantasy football. We've got injury updates. We've got Thursday night recap. We've got must starts, must sits this week. And then we also have some streaming options to give you guys today, just in case, maybe you didn't draft too well. Maybe you grabbed Daniel Jones as your only quarterback and you realized, oh, wow, he plays the Steelers week 1. So maybe you need to stream a quarterback now. And then we do have a start-sit question from a fan. So anyways, John, let's jump into it. Let's jump into our injury news. Do you want to start? Do you want me to go?
Let me jump into this first one here just because it's dear to my heart. Just for everyone out there, Mike Evans did miss practice on Thursday due to a hamstring injury. He did miss a chunk of games last season due to a soft tissue hamstring injury. So it's kind of scary to see happening already before the season even starts. Soft tissues are something that does linger. So Chris Godwin, love to see it. Mike Evans hopefully doesn't miss any time, but there is the slight possibility that he doesn't suit up Sunday. So let's just be careful with that.
Yeah, Arians did come out and say that if he practices Sunday, he'll play on, if he practices Friday today, then he will play on Sunday. If he does not practice on Friday, then it will be a game time decision. So make sure you keep an eye on that. Also, we will be doing a probably about at noon or so on Sunday. We will go on live on Instagram and Twitter and just do any check-ins for any we'll answer start-sit questions, and then if anybody's been declared inactive, we will also give you those updates. So keep an eye out, Mike Evans. If he practices today, you're good. If not, eek. But we'll get on to we'll touch base on Sunday. So, anyways, moving on. Deontay Johnson missed Thursday with Thursday practice with his foot injury. Good news is they have an extra day to kind of prepare and get him healthy. They play on Monday night against the Giants. So keep an eye out on him. Not a bad matchup for him.
No, not at all. Cleveland?
No, the Giants.
Oh, yeah, no, you actually really can't ask for much better, especially coming into the early part of the season. The Giants just lost DeAndre Baker due to some poor decisions made. Tisk. They weren't really looking at something that was going to be a huge threat to begin with anyway. So if he plays, another good start.
Potentially. But like I said, Sunday.
If
he plays.
Needs to pay attention to whether or not he's suiting up.
So definitely keep an eye out for him. Moving on, Devine Ezigbo was placed on IR. The Jags did sign Daria Gumbawale to their team. So both Raquel Armstead and Devine Ezigbo are going to be out for Sunday's game. Daria, I'm assuming, will be there for a limited role, but definitely Chris Thompson behind James Robinson. And we'll be talking about James Robinson a little bit later.
Yeah, might even get into a little Chris Thompson.
Ooh. So, anyways, next and last piece that we wanted to touch on, Deebo Samuel. He was sidelined Thursday. And then Brandon Aiyuk was limited in practice on Thursday as well. I'm not starting Deebo this week. Too much of a risk. Brandon Aiyuk potentially, just depending on, his practice on Friday or today.
Yeah, depending on what happens and who's going to be suiting up, ready to go for the game. Going to be looking at someone on the receivers to be playing. Again, scary with Deebo and Aiyuk. Probably weren't picking him up to be played or this early in the season. So shouldn't hurt you too bad. But again, if he's playing and he's starting, you might want to look into just checking in on him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So keep an eye out for all those today and over the weekend prior to the games. Definitely situations to monitor. But anyways, let's move into our Thursday night recap. Like John said earlier, it was a great game to watch. Ton of fantasy relevance. I guess I'll start CEH, baby. I love it. I love seeing it. Oh, my goodness. Brought warmth to my heart.
Yeah, I know you were extremely hot on him this season, so it was really nice to get to watch him play. I didn't get a chance to see too much of his work at LSU. I didn't watch LSU's bigger games last year, or their smaller games. I only watched their bigger ones. So I was kind of surprised to see him primarily get a rushing role instead of that pass catching role that everyone's been expecting him to get.
Yep.
So
25 carries.
25 carries. And he had a large chunk of the goal line carries. And I mean, me and you watched the game together.
Every goal line attempt they had or rush, he was carrying it, which didn't turn out great. That is a concern of mine his size and the goal line. Two, his offensive line wasn't helping on the goal line much, but keep an eye out. Maybe they do bring in a goal line back potentially. But overall, 25 carries, 138 yards, 1 touchdown, and he only had 2 targets in the passing game. So I definitely think you're going to see more targets in that area. Darrell Williams did have 2 receptions for 7 yards, so he caught both of his, and only 7 carries. So I don't think he had as large a chunk as we thought he would in this first game. But CEH, so far, definitely a great start to his career and fantasy season.
Yeah, I gotta give it off to you. Good job on that. I know you were super hyped about him way before even Damian Williams opted out of the season, so I'll give you that one.
It's only week 1. It's only week 1. We can't overthink things, overlook things.
Can't overhype it.
Overhype it.
But watching the game and just seeing him, the only thing holding him back was that goal line work, like you mentioned, and he still produced without the goal line touchdown with all the attempts he had. Another thing holding him back was I didn't see any yards after contact really stacking up. It seemed like anytime someone got a good hold on him, he was down. And again, that's probably due to size. But I do think that's something that they can scheme to get him in more space, and possibly him breaking those tackles would only push him up even further.
Definitely.
So I think he's got a lot of potential to continue doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the other running back for the Texans, David Johnson?
Yeah, your favorite person in the world.
Oh, my God, I hate him. No offense, David. I know you listen to us, and I'm sorry. You seem like a great guy, but I'm not very hot on him this year.
No, he did get 11 rushing attempts for 77 yards, with 1 touchdown, with 4 passing targets, catching 3 of those for 32 yards, and the one that he missed was just a spin around. He was running upfield and just had his back turned, but if he would have caught it, it would have been another probably about a 15-20 yard passing play. Mm-hmm. So had a great game. It seemed that really the only options that Deshaun Watson had in the game were to run the ball with David Johnson, pass the ball to Will Fuller, overthrow him, possibly drop it off to Randall Cobb or his tight ends, or run the ball and get sacked. So I think that David Johnson found himself a nice little role in that offense, or proved himself that he can handle a role in that offense. And if they can get their offensive line working a little bit better, I think you're going to continue to see good work from him. I think he showed himself to be worth the value that he got. You got him for that early.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that helped David Johnson, Duke Johnson actually left the game with a leg injury. So definitely monitor that situation. He did at the beginning. There were a few times they were lining up in 2-back sets, and Duke was getting the ball. Duke had 5 carries, so and 1 target. So for leaving the game, I believe it was like the mid-third quarter or so. Not too shabby. So without him there, depending on the severity of his injury, David could see quite a bit of uptick in work and not have that competition there in that backfield. So moving on to the quarterbacks real quick, Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson put up respective fantasy finishes this week. Mahomes finished 24 completions on 32 attempts for 211 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. And Deshaun Watson finished at 20 completions on 32 attempts as well. 253 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interceptions, 6 carries, 27 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown, which really helped his fantasy finish. He needs a wide receiver, John.
He needs an offensive line.
He needs an offensive line.
He didn't look great out there. He was overthrowing a lot, underthrowing here and there, and then again, his receivers weren't getting open in the limited amount of time he had in the pocket, and he was running around a lot trying to get free. So I think that stat line kind of like isn't something you want to look at and expect a lot. I think there's a lot of it coming from just garbage time opportunity, being that
the rushing touchdown came in the last 7 minutes, I think.
Yeah, the Chiefs took over the game early, had a score 21-7 at halftime, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just the game script that came out gave the Texans a lot of opportunity to run offensive plays and just put up points for Deshaun Watson. I think this was kind of a bad showing for him, but it works out. I think Patrick Mahomes got a little snipe there with only getting 20.44 points. Your Clyde Edwards ate into a lot of the available yardage with those rushing attempts. But still 3 touchdowns is something that you're going to be happy with no matter who throws them.
And if you're in a 6-point touchdown league, you're really liking that too.
That's true, yeah.
So moving on to the wide receivers real quick. Sammy Watkins led the team in targets. Other than with 9, he put up a solid fantasy finish. He did have a touchdown, 7 receptions on 9 targets for 82 yards. He also had 1 carry for 3 yards. So put up had the best fantasy finish of the team. And then Tyreek Hill was kind of quiet for most of the game. Then he had that touchdown, which really helped him. He finished with 5 receptions on 6 targets and 46 yards. So kind of similar to the beginning of last year where Sammy Watkins, had a very good week 1 and then kind of went downhill from there. I expect the same, to be honest. If you have Sammy, I don't expect it week in, week out. He is very up and down in his play, so I wouldn't expect this consistently.
No, he's absolutely not. Last season you saw it because Tyreek Hill was out weeks 1 through 4. So Sammy got that bump as being the wide receiver 1. Personally, the biggest takeaway I get out of the receivers from Kansas City was Demarcus Robinson was getting a lot of targets. It seemed like he was on the field a lot, and not only that, but for big plays. He had a drop touchdown in the end zone, and then I believe the other one was an overthrow.
Yeah, he had two touchdowns.
He had 2 red zone targets, or not red zone targets, targets in the end zone and opportunities for him to score that just didn't work out. But it did just seem like anytime you're watching them on the offense, like he just popped up a lot in their passing game, getting 6 targets and catching 3 of them, only getting 20 yards. But again, barely missing out on that deep touchdown pass that would have sent him way up. I'd like to keep a lookout on him, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of see what they do with him and see if it's someone that's going to keep popping up in their offense. With how explosive the offense is, you're going to want anyone who's getting a good share of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely somebody just, if you're in a deep dynasty league, stash him on your bench and see what he does. Tyreek Hill, obviously he's a must. You're going to start him every week. This was a down week-ish for him. He still put up a decent fantasy finish with that touchdown. But Will Fuller had a great game. Eight receptions, on 10 targets, 112 yards. He came in flashes, I felt, the entire game. It was like he was quiet there for, a good amount of plays in a drive, and then all of a sudden he'd get a nice chunk of yards. As long as he's healthy, he's going to put up points, and he didn't get in the end zone today, so, there's always touchdown upside there.
They had opportunities for it. He was overthrown on at least 2 passes that could have ended up in the end zone. One pass, I think he caught it, but it was short. No, he ended up catching it, but it was short, and if it would have been a deeper, it could have been a touchdown for him. But if they could, maybe it's just a little bit of desyncing from quarterback to receiver on the short camp time and everything. But if they can sync it up and they can continue to run that offense that way, I love Will Fuller. As long as he's healthy, he's a start for me.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the game, also, they tried to get the ball into Brandon Cook's hands. He kind of quieted down there in the second half, but he did have 5 targets. So I think they are trying to get him involved as well. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on. Didn't have the best fantasy finish this week, but he seems to be. From what I took away, does seem to be somebody they're trying to get the ball in his hands, make a play.
Yeah.
So, and then Travis Kelce, he went 6 receptions on 6 targets for 50 yards and a touchdown. Typical Travis Kelce.
Again, someone who just kept popping up on the field with the ball in his hands and then making a play after the catch. Absolute great game for him. Not one of his better fantasy finishes, but exactly what you're expecting at a baseline from your tight end 1 that you're drafting as the tight end 1 or 2 in the league. So really happy with that. A person that did stand out on the Houston that ended up getting only 2 targets, but one of them was for a nice little touchdown, as tight end was Jordan Akins. Okay.
Ish. We'll ask him. I'll text him.
But it's only 2. He only had 2 targets. Darren Fells shared the target split, but with the addition of that touchdown, it put him up to 12 points as a tight end. So great on him. I think that's really great. I know a lot of people were talking about Darren Fells being someone that at the beginning of the offseason is someone you'd be streaming, but I think that splits too much. But
yeah, I don't think you pick him up this week. I mean, no. I think the touchdowns are going. It's 1 week it could be Fells, the next week it could be Akins. So good game, decent game for him. One of his passes was a touchdown. So, but overall, I'm not picking him up or even Fells really, because it is going to be
all over the place. Yeah.
So, anyways, let's move on to our must starts. This week, week 1, NFL 2020. I love hearing that. It's beautiful. So, John, you want to get started with your first must start?
Yeah, so my first must start is actually going to be the receiver from the Chargers. It's going to be Keenan Allen. I think he's someone who's going into a great week this year, a great opportunity this year, especially week 1, where he's going to be playing as the standalone wide receiver 1 for the team with new quarterback Tyrod Taylor. Mike Williams has been ruled out for the game. So you've got him playing against the Cincinnati Bengals, who last year were one of the jokes of the league. As far as their secondary depth, they do have a handful of decent secondary, but the whole of the team's going to be letting the offense move down the field. And with Tyrod Taylor not really having many other options besides Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, a handful of young receivers, and then Austin Eckler, he's going to be getting enough of a target share to where he's going to be able to get open. He's an elite route runner. He doesn't have a lot of people taking high-end targets away from him. I see him being able to get open for the red zone. At the low end, you're talking about maybe what Tyreek Hill just did today with about 15 points without a touchdown. I think he's got a lot of PPR upside as well. And if I have him in any leagues this week, someone I'm really going to be playing and expecting a lot from. Not someone I'm going to be shying away from at all just due to the Tyrod Taylor concerns.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I'm not too worried about Tyrod Taylor this week, to be honest. I think that the secondary of the Bengals is not very good. I mean, Trey Waynes was their best, and he ranked 48th overall cornerback for PFF. And Keenan Allen's one of the best route runners. He's one of the best separators in the league. So I definitely think, like you said, with Keenan, with Hunter, and also with Eckler, that defense is going to have a lot their hands full, and Keenan is definitely going to have a great week. But anyways, moving to my first must start, that is Carson Wentz. As we were going through these, I didn't want to pick him because I don't really like him for the entire year. However, he does have a great matchup against the Washington football team. Washington gave up the 26 most points last year against quarterbacks. Now, they did add Kyle Fuller in the offseason. And also, the Eagles do not have many receivers, if any, currently healthy. So I don't think that's going to hurt him much this week just because of the matchup. You drafted him as your quarterback 12, so you're going to start him anyway. But with Zach Ertz there, with Dallas Goedert and Deshaun Jackson, you've got big playability and some blankets there for him to pass the ball to. So I don't think that's going to hinder him this week at least, especially against the team he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing against someone whose secondary ranked the worst of the worst last year. They didn't do too much to stir that up. They did add Chase Young, but that's going to be the only huge addition that you're even worried about, and that's hasn't been proven yet. But it does exist. I'm not the biggest fan of Carson Wentz, but if you do have him and you need to play him, this is the week you want to play him.
Yeah.
They do have, like you said, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, who are both really strong tight ends. With the lack of healthy receivers, both those tight ends can make up a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So Miles Sanders is there. Well, I see a good week for Carson Wentz.
And then I think there's definitely big playability there with Deshaun Jackson as well.
Especially against, you're talking the Washington's defense again. So, absolutely all it takes is one breakaway touchdown to easily put up points.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I think he definitely has a I would put it a mid-tier quarterback 1 week is what I would put on it. So anyways, what?
No, I was going to say you should be expecting a pretty decent matchup from him.
Mm-hmm. So you want to move on to your next start of the week or must start?
Yeah, so my next must start is actually going to be Cam Newton. I think that we're talking week 1. He just got disgraced by the Carolina Panthers, got cut by them, assigned the starting quarterback position for the New England Patriots when they've just drafted Jarrett Stidham and had planning to be moving forward with him. I don't think Belichick's the type of coach that would allow Cam to go in there if he wasn't elite. If he wasn't elite Cam, they would have kept on with Stidham and attempting to develop him or looked other places. So the only real nag you have against him is that this week going into it playing the Miami Dolphins is that the Miami Dolphins, you can look at their defensive record from last year and it's absolutely abysmal. But they did have a lot of additions in Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Thompson. So you can't truly look at that defensive rating. But even if Cam goes against a better defense, even if you're putting him against someone a more of a mid-tier defense rather than the bottom tier, you're still getting an elite quarterback through the Patriots offense who has a limited rushing game with Sony Michel being slightly banged up, James White being a primary pass-catching back. I think they're going to be seeing a lot of downfield passing. I think you're going to be seeing Cam rush the ball. And against the Dolphins, I think you're going to be getting a great payout for it. With a fire under his butt, you're going to be seeing Cam Newton put up amazing numbers this week, and I'm guaranteeing it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I like Cam this week, even though it hurts my heart that they're playing the Dolphins. I don't want to think that he'll put up a crazy amount of points, but I do think it's definitely a possibility.
Do it too, though.
And I hope so. And I think that not only is he going to flourish in the passing game, he's also going to have the rushing ability, but he's also going to get those goal line attempts too. They have Sony Michel there, but we've seen Belichick with Tom Brady, short yardage situations, on the goal line. Mm-hmm. He'll do a quarterback sneak, and Cam is the guy to do it. So he does have that rushing touchdown upside as well.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, my next must start is Stefon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills. They're playing the New York Jets.
Another amazing defense coming out of the NFL.
Oh, my goodness. Probably. Ooh.
Especially with Jamal. Oh, wait.
Yeah, they did lose Jamal Adams.
Oh, I saw that.
Yep. Yeah, he's gone. So, the New York defense is horrific. Last year, they gave up the 24th most points, fantasy points against wide receivers. 384 total points against receivers. And that's not very good. They do have Brian Poole, solid cornerback there, but I don't see him, affecting Stefon too much. There is going to be the ball is going to be spread around, enough, and Stefon has that big play ability to where he can break one reception off for a long touchdown, and I think he's going to step up as the wide receiver 1 for this team. And what better way to start a season than playing a horrific team coached by a horrific coach?
Yeah, and for a receiver who's felt like he's always been overshadowed by Adam Thielen and that he hasn't been given a true opportunity, even though his targets don't show that. But you're looking at someone who's trying to prove a point, got a deep arm quarterback, has someone who's can be speedy and get downfield, as well as do a lot of work once the ball's in his hand in the short field, against a defense who doesn't have any depth, doesn't have any stars, really. I think this is going to be one of Stefon Diggs' possibly one of the better games of his season, and hopefully gives a good show about what you're expecting from him.
Yeah,
I think I think Josh Allen's an upgrade for him. Not going to be obviously not nearly as accurate as as Kirk Cousins was, him being, I want to say, the most accurate quarterback last season.
Yeah, top 3.
Yeah, so Josh Allen being someone people make jokes about not being so accurate. But hopefully they get that a little tightened up. But the big playability, I think, from Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs is a lot higher than Stefon Diggs and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, 100%. And, I mean, that's probably my favorite stack this week as well. I want to stack. I have Josh Allen. I do have Stefon Diggs in a league together. And I think it's just going to pay dividends big time. I think they're both going to have a great week. So, anyways, moving on. John, do you want to get to your first must sit?
Yeah, so this is near and dear to my heart. My first must sit is going to be Leonard Fournette. If you have picked him up or you've had him prior to him moving to Tampa, you saw him move, you don't believe the Rojo hype, and you think he's going to get a huge share and just ball out this week playing against New Orleans, I will happily tell you you're going to be wrong. Please don't take that risk if you listen to us, because it shows on us. If you take that risk, you are looking at someone who does not have any proven or true opportunity to be getting a large workload, going at someone who was ranked the number 6 defense against the running back last year with the Saints. This is not the game to test out your Rojo Leonard Fournette theory. Grab someone else, stream someone this week if you have no other option. I don't see Leonard Fournette getting enough of a workload other than the possibility of really low rushing attempts, maybe a touchdown. I don't see flexible numbers from him this week, let alone startable numbers.
Yeah.
So stay away, Leonard Fournette. Not worth it. Not yet.
I agree. Unfortunately, I do want, I do want to say, I want to be able to tell everybody that, yes, start Leonard Fournette because it's a great offense, blah, blah, blah,
It's a great
blah.
story. You feel like it's the way to be right. If you're right about it, you're going to tell everyone.
Yeah, and, I've been tossing and turning it, all week with this. Do I want, because I have Fournette in a few leagues, and do I want to start him this week? And ultimately, like John said, don't take the risk. Not this week. There is big playability there. By the second half, he could take the backfield over. But the thing is there's just so much unknown at this point that it's not worth it. Start somebody else. I do think that he will eventually take that backfield over and be the number one guy. And, we picked him in a league in the third round before he got cut. Feel
great about it. I've got him and Ronald Jones on one of my dynasty teams.
I
feel great about that too.
I do kind of feel good about it, to be honest. Like I think he
late round or late season.
Exactly. And I think he could be a league winner down the road, but not this week, not week 1. So
probably not.
Yeah. So don't start Leonard Fournette. Agreed there. Somebody else who you should not start, and I guess you could really say 3 people you should not start, but I'm just gonna go off
just with one.
With one, and that's Cam Akers. And the reason being is there's 2 other running backs in that backfield. Darrell Henderson did fully participate in practice on Wednesday. And Sean McVay came out and said that they have until really somebody shows that they're going to be that back for them. It's going to be a 3-headed monster there, or a 3-headed pain in the butt.
A 3-headed pain in the snake in the.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I'd have to agree. Cam Akers is someone I would totally want to stay away from. I know that earlier this offseason, if you don't pay too much attention to news, you might be under the impression that he's walking himself into a week 1 role when we just reported on our last episode that he was actually listed at the back of the depth chart, and it's just a big cluster over there.
Yep.
So if you have him on your team, it's not time to play him. Not a week to try it.
Question.
Especially not against the Dallas defense. They have an amazing secondary, a great
offensive line, defensive line,
great linebacker core. So do not play Cam Akers.
Now, quick question for you. John, I drafted Leonard Fournette in the 3rd when he was still a 3rd-round pick, and I drafted Cam Akers in the 6th. I don't have anybody else to flex. Who am I playing this week, Cam Akers or Leonard Fournette?
You better check those waivers, but probably Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette for sure. Higher upside.
Yeah, the upside is there, but it's just not. It's
the risk.
You don't want to. It's not going to be likely.
So, anyways, just thought I'd throw that out there.
So moving on to my next must sit. This is probably going to hurt some people. Especially if they drafted OBJ, coming off of the news that he was injured last season. He's better now. He's ready to go. Don't believe it, especially not for week 1. He's going to be playing against the Baltimore Ravens defense.
Oh, my goodness.
And that is not what you want to be starting your season against.
Some would say it's a crappy.
It's a crappy situation.
Yeah.
And so you might just want to look at it. But realistically, last year Baker Mayfield took a huge sweep down on what our expectations for him are. He struggled a lot. And so we're hoping to not see the same Baker this year. See a little bit more of rookie Baker come out with a healthy OBJ. But against that Baltimore defense, you're not going to be playing him unless you drafted him so early you have no other choice. There are plenty of people who are going to be going against weak matchups that we're going to be talking about later. I think you can almost stream someone with more success than playing OBJ this week. And that's only based off of, and that's only, it only takes 1 or 2 big plays to be wrong about this. But realistically, the matchup in that Ravens defense is just too much.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult for me, to take him out of my lineup, especially when I spent the draft capital on him. I believe, let me pull it up here real quick. He was going as 33.6 ADP. So you're spending a high pick on him, a higher pick in that 3rd to 4th roundish. So it's difficult for me to sit him. That's difficult. I think personally, if I didn't draft Odell Beckham at all this year, I think I'd be forced into if you did. Oh man, I'm sorry. That's hard. But I agree that it's not going to be great.
Let me hit you with some knowledge about this first.
Please do.
So last year, week 4, they played Baltimore. OBJ got 7 targets, was only able to catch 2 of them and only get 20 yards. Ended possibly one of the worst games of his actually was the worst game of the season for him, with only 3.5 points. Next time they play Baltimore, he was able to break into 14 points, which was relatively his ceiling where he finished week by week. It was his second best finish all season. But that's only because he was able to come down with a touchdown and only ended up with 44 yards on 6 targets. Baltimore has his number. Baltimore's defense is just insane.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't take the risk on him.
You know what the good thing is, though? These people have been listening to us for all offseason.
So you guys didn't draft him at his insanely high ADP.
Exactly. Boom.
You guys drafted him around
They didn't draft him. They didn't draft him at all.
Oh, you're grabbing him if he fell.
To 12. No, I'm just kidding. No, if he fell to 6, 7, I'd grab him.
Yeah.
So, anyways, moving on to my last start sit here. That is quarterback of the New York Giants, Daniel Jones. He's playing the Steelers defense. You want to move on to our streaming options now?
Yeah, because that's pretty much all you have to say.
That's it. They've got an amazing secondary. They've got an amazing pass rush. Great linebacker.
The Steelers have arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL coming into this season,
if not the best.
Exactly, arguably the best. Problem with the New York Giants last year was they did have a lot of issues with their offensive line. Daniel Jones is getting sacked a lot and fumbling the ball a lot.
10 times. 11 times.
They did end up taking a guy in the 4th overall pick.
3rd, Andrew Thomas. Out of Georgia.
They did take Andrew Thomas in the first round, but you just don't want to go against that Steelers defense with a sophomore quarterback who only had a handful of games last year. There were sparks for Daniel Jones, but again, there's a time and place for everything.
Actually, I'm sorry, he was the 4th pick.
Okay.
Okudah was the 3rd.
But there's a time and place for everything, and this is neither the time nor the place to put Daniel Jones in your roster.
Don't do it.
You're going to want to wait until there's a weaker defense, or if he can go out and, get a ball out week 2, because he's not balling out this week.
Yeah, he's not.
But if he can go out and ball out week 2, then it's time to play him. Or he's a good matchup week 2, then it's time to play him. There can be flashes, and that's kind of what you're looking for now. You didn't draft him to be your quarterback 1.
He plays the Bears week 2. Let's see who he plays week 3. Plays the 49ers week 3.
That's not too bad.
The 49ers?
Against a quarterback?
Not great. They have a great pass rush as well. I would say that's the 2nd or 3rd best defense in the league this year.
Yeah, but their pass rush is good, but their secondary is not the best.
Yeah.
Which is why they got burnt in the Super Bowl. But, which is why I'm saying they're not bad to play against a quarterback.
He's got a pretty tough schedule. He plays the Rams after that.
Yeah, so you might want to stay away from Daniel Jones for a little bit. But realistically, just want to sit him this week, trying to kind of see what he's doing. He didn't draft him to be your quarterback 1. So,
and if you did, listen to our streaming options in a couple minutes.
Yeah, we've got you.
So, anyways, those are our must-start, must-sits of Week 1, 2020 NFL. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, anyways, let's move on to our next segment, and that is streaming options of the week. If you picked up Daniel Jones, then you're going to want to stream this quarterback, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo. He is currently owned in 28.3% of leagues. John, how do you feel about Jimmy this week?
I think Jimmy Garoppolo is someone who's going to be walking into a decent situation. The only knock you have on him is that his number 1 receiver in Deebo Samuel isn't guaranteed to start or even play week 1. But that offensive line is one of the best, again, arguably one of the best in the league right now. They are the best offensive line in the league right now, with the addition of Trent Taylor coming there.
Trent Taylor's the receiver.
No, I'm sorry, you're right. From Redskins, the Redskins lineman that had the. Why can't I think of his name?
I don't know. I'll look it up real quick.
Okay, but no, they have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL coming into this season, and what's going to be happening is he's going to have plenty of time to be getting the ball out. You still have Kendrick Bourne there. You've got Brandon Aiyuk. You've got George Kittle, as well as Telvin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. So they do have plenty of receiving options there. I do think that they're going to be able to get the ball downfield, especially when playing against the Arizona defense. They are playing with playing Arizona, who was they gave up the most points per game against an opposing quarterback at 22.9 per game, which is a very solid finish even as an average. So I think that he's just going to be in a situation where he's got a great matchup, is going to be taking a step up this year, possibly airing the ball out a little more, coming from the number one rushing offense last season behind Baltimore. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is just a week that he's going to be showing himself out, and a great week to play him.
Yeah, and that O-lineman you were talking about. Trent Williams. I 100% agree. I mean, I last year, week 11, Jimmy G balled out. Best game of the year for him. Put up 424 passing yards against the Cardinals. And then in week 9, he put up 41. So his two best passing games last year, or fantasy finishes, came against the Cardinals. They did add the linebacker Isaiah Simmons, and he is a linebacker safety kind of flex option.
He's an athlete,
big time. But I still, even with the limited amount of receivers that Jimmy G may have this year or this week, he's a super solid flex, and I was even considering him for a must start. So if he's out there on the waiver wire, run to your waiver wire, pick him up. Unless you had like Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen even, other than that, I'd grab Jimmy G. He's probably going to have
he plays the Cardinals twice a year.
Yeah.
That answers that. If he's on your waivers, he's someone you want to roster as a QB2 if you don't have a solid enough QB2 already, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But great. So moving on to our running back favorite streaming option for us this week is going to be James Robinson. As spoken before, he was listed as the running back one for the Jaguars after the Fournette trade. I'm terrible with names.
I got you.
You got me.
Devine Ezigbo went to IR. Raekwon Armstead is out with COVID. Oh. And then they did sign. Can you say it, John?
Dare Agumbawale.
Good job, man.
It just takes a few times. But he was added to the Jacksonville backfield. But it was so recent that you're not sure what you're expecting from him. I do believe he was said that he was suiting up, but I don't believe that he's going to be getting anywhere close to enough targets or rushing attempts to be taken away from either James Robinson or Chris Thompson. I did tell you guys I'd bring him in here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I do believe that even though if Dare does come in this week, he's going to be a primary pass catcher. We saw him in Tampa being that pass catching role for them. And with Chris Thompson as well coming in under that role, I think you're going to see James Robinson taking a bulk of the rushing attempts for the team, and then just being a product of opportunity at that point.
Yeah.
I know we don't know what he is. We don't know if he's going to be a baller stud or be able to produce as many yards after contact or be as total yards as Leonard Fournette did with that offensive line that they have. It's semi-limited for him, so you're not really sure what to expect. But just based off of the opportunity that he's going to be getting, I think that if you're desperately needing to stream a running back, this is someone you're going to want to pick up to stream and then possibly hold on to see what happens with him, as he is a rookie coming into this season, which is why we're so limited with knowledge on him.
Yep. Another big thing is he's going to get those goal line touches. And Chris Thompson, he's not a goal line back. He's not going to get them. James Robinson will get those. And it is going to be a pretty tough matchup for him because Indy does have a really solid defense. I believe 10th best last year against the running back position in according to fantasy points given up. So I definitely think that he's going to have a difficult time, but if he can get into the end zone, then that's definitely going to be great at that flex position. You're not playing him as your running back 1. You're not playing him as your running back 2. But as a solid flex option, you're playing him as your running back 2?
I don't have an option.
Oh, no, John.
I had Ronald Jones and Fournette, so.
Oh, no. Oh, so you're playing – are you playing either of them as your flex then?
Questionable. We're looking at still deciding if I want to move a receiver up or not.
Ooh, we'll add that to the start sit questions in a minute.
Okay, I can pull up that league.
So, anyways, James Robinson, go grab him, especially if you're needy at the running back position. Even if you're not, pick him up, Drop somebody. If you have 2 tight ends, drop the second tight end. Pick James Robinson up. Kind of talked about it last episode. So
yeah, I like him a lot this week, and I think that he's going to have a great opportunity and could be a sleeper that hit the wire, that hit the news late enough to where you're grabbing him now, and that's going to be someone that could win your league for you.
And that's the thing. You don't want to have to either spend fab on him, or you don't want to have to be up against the waiver wire, the position you're at, just to pick him up on Monday or Tuesday.
After you've seen that he can do something.
Right.
And as a waiver pickup, it's great for a shot. You can drop your weakest link more than likely and still be able to pick him up and take that hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. So pick him up now. Don't let him sit there. Don't wait until Monday, Tuesday when he balls out and you're like, oh no, what did I do? So, anyways, moving on to John and I both have a wide receiver that we believe is a solid streaming option this week. I'll jump into mine real quick. Bryan Edwards for the Las Vegas Raiders against Carolina. He's only owned in 9.4% of leagues. They don't have a very strong secondary. Eli Apple's there, he's kind of been a journeyman after he left the Giants, and Dante Jackson. And during camp, we've seen the news come out consistently on Bryan Edwards. He's balling out. He's taking over. And we saw on the depth chart, him and Henry Ruggs are the starting wide receivers. So I believe it's going to be a pretty good matchup for him. And he'll be a solid flex. I think around that maybe 11 or so point range is what you'll get from him, unless he gets a touchdown there, and then, 15.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. We were able to see Derek Carr make 2 wide receivers fantasy relevant just a few years ago when he had Amari Cooper as well as Michael Crabtree. We're talking years ago now. We're still talking Derek Carr. He's still a young guy. He still has it. But
gets a lot of crap. He does.
He gets a lot of crap. He's an extremely talented quarterback that just hasn't been in a good situation and has had a couple bad years. It's hard to argue for the man now because it's been a while since he's been elite. But I still like the guy. I do think that with some talented receivers like Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs there, they're going to find themselves open. With only being owned at 9.4%, there's a really high chance that you just picked up a wide receiver 1 or 2 for a starting team, which is hard to do, especially in 12 and 10 and 12-man leagues or anything deeper than that. You're going to be pretty happy with that. And Bryan Edwards is going to be taking that under role, with Henry Ruggs being more of that deep threat as well as that big play option. So Bryan Edwards should be seeing a larger share of targets. The only person that might break into that issue would be Hunter Renfrow. Someone again, but they haven't been talking too much about him. There hasn't been a lot of great reports coming out on camp from him that I've seen.
Well, I think also other than Darren Waller, he's a big body guy who can go up and get the ball too. He's 6'3", so obviously we saw Darren Waller break out, and it'd be pretty dumb not to scheme against Darren Waller because that's their best receiving threat. As of
right now, without a doubt.
So, I think it's there's a pretty high possibility that Bryan Edwards gets into the end zone this week.
Yeah, I would have to say so. I think there's a big chance. Like you said, that 6'3" really does help, especially in that red zone when everyone's clustered together and you just need to come down to something. Mm-hmm. I like him. I'll give it to you. Good one.
Thanks, John.
I like my guy a little bit better, though.
Let's hear it. Who is it?
All right, so surprise, surprise. My guy's actually going to be Kendrick Bourne, currently only being owned in 1.1% of leagues on ESPN.
Little stack there, Jimmy G and Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, absolutely. He was listed as a starter with Deebo Samuel not in sight at practice on Thursday. Brandon Aiyuk is dealing with some nicks and bruises, dealing up with his stuff. But last year, Kendrick Bourne was able to finish with 5 touchdowns on only 30 receptions. So we're talking someone who's going to be who has established himself as a touchdown, an end zone receiver, going into an opportunity where he's going to be able to see a fair share of targets this week. I think that with Deebo Samuel not there, I think that Kendrick Bourne is going to be the one that is going to be getting the most from Deebo Samuel being out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to be seeing a lot from him. And again, they're playing Arizona. Last year, Arizona ranked in the bottom half of the league, giving up 33.6 fantasy points per game to receivers. So I think you're going to be getting a great amount from him. I think with Jimmy G being able to possibly light up the field like we were talking about as a quarterback streamer, if Bourne can get 7 to 8 targets, you're possibly talking someone who can finish in the upper end of the wide receivers this week. With that touchdown upside that he does have, being he scored a touchdown in 1 in 6 plays. That only takes 1.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he, like you said, he showed it last year that he can score touchdowns. Another guy like on that team, Trent Taylor, a little bit as that slot role, could get a good amount of targets while they're gone. But Kendrick Bourne, definitely a solid receiver this week, could be a solid streaming option. So moving on to our tight ends, John and I, we agree on this one.
We're in love with the guy. Luckily, this episode's going to be released Friday morning so that everyone in one of our leagues that we're in
our listener league
does not listen to this. We made a bid on Blake Jarwin. Hopefully it goes through. Hopefully none of you guys sniped him from us. Someone dropped him in our league, and it was an instant conversation between us.
Actually, I put the bid in before I even asked him.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm glad I agreed. Going own 20.5% in these ESPN leagues. He's someone you're going to find on your waiver wire pretty often if you're in multiple leagues right now. We've seen time and time again that Dak Prescott doesn't mind throwing to his tight end. Whether it's the end zone or any time the field, it's a nice little safety blanket for him. They did have Jason Witten there, who's a Hall of Famer, but we do have Jason Witten, old Jason Witten. You don't have Jason Witten of the past.
Right.
Now, Blake Jarwin coming in here, someone who got 42 targets last season and did a good amount of work with them. He's established himself. I think what we're going to be getting is a younger, more efficient version of Jason Witten. Not even Hall of Fame caliber is still going to be getting you insane tight end 1 numbers. It doesn't take a lot. And I think as a streamer, this is going to be a streamer you're going to get so much from week 1 that you're going to end up keeping all season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be a solid play all year. Another guy who pick him up before he goes.
Before he is established.
Yeah, and he's got a great matchup. The Rams have probably one of, if not the worst, linebacking cores there in the league. So I think that he's going to be open a ton. Amari Cooper is going to have to deal with Jalen Ramsey. So that's going to leave, a couple options. Michael Gallup.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
CeeDee Lamb. I'm just saying, everybody. Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Blake Jarwin. And like John said, Dak does like to throw to tight ends. And in the red zone, he's going to flourish there. Jalen Ramsey or Amari Cooper is going to have maybe potentially a down week with Jalen Ramsey there. So
Michael Gallup or Jerry Jeudy if Cortland Sutton doesn't start. I knew it. All right, great. The fact that you hesitated was enough for me. All right, so I know your pedestal's not that high. You can move from
I have him as my wide receiver like 23, 22.
I think I have him as like my 31.
So, I mean, I'm not saying Gallup's like a wide receiver 1 or anything like that, but I do think he's going to give you wide receiver 1 games occasionally.
1 or 2.
Couple. Could be this week.
It's going to be when he plays Washington and throws up 3 touchdowns again.
That's true. But Blake Jarwin this week, definitely, tight end 1 for sure. Book it. this week.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was neat. So book it this week. Pick them up. Don't be a fool, please. Please.
Yeah, grab them and then let us know if you guys like them, just so we can know if we're making good picks for you guys. I guess we'll be able to watch the game and figure that out for ourselves.
Yeah. And then we've got one defense that we're going to talk about that you could stream this week. John, you want to get to that defense that's 47% owned on ESPN?
Yeah, the defense that's 47% owned is going to be the Eagles. That percentage means that might not be available for you, but they're playing against the Washington football team, who obviously we've talked about finished last bottom of the barrel last season.
Not very good
in total offense, which means that the Eagles don't have too much to be worried about. They haven't added too many offensive weapons other than Antonio Gibson, activating Bryce Love, and then actually losing Adrian Peterson and cutting a handful of other players.
They do have Steve Sims, though, who's, in camp's been...
Alex Smith is there, too.
There's
a lot of could-bes, but nothing that's making you want to be like, oh, yeah, no, hold up. That's a threat.
Not Scary
We need to
Terry?
stop him. Scary Terry's the only, really one. But last year you had the Eagles defense finish as defense 7 in a regular standard league as the defense. Without some of the additions that they got, I mean, they did just grab Darius Slay from the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone who's going to be balling and shutting down Scary Terry. Maybe not shutting down, but putting enough pressure to where that one receiver they have isn't going to be an issue. I mean, they do not have a tight end. They do not have a standout tight end. They do not have a standout.
You don't like Jeremy Sprinkle, the cupcake?
They don't have a standout wide receiver too. And even the running back situation, no one knows what's going on there. I think the Eagles are going to be walking into a situation where it's almost going to be a blowout. And if you can stream the Eagles defense this week, you're possibly going to be getting positive points from what they start the defenses on, just based off turnovers, lack of points scored against, and possibly enough point boost to win your week.
Yeah, 100% agree. Eagles, if they're in your league, grab them. One other real quick one, just to touch on it. I love this matchup. I've picked him up in a ton of leagues, and that's the Titans defense versus the Denver Broncos, much to his dismay. They are owned in 19.9% of fantasy leagues. Last year, they finished second to last in pressure percentage on the quarterback, which isn't great, but they did just add Jadeveon Clowney this week. He is going to play. Mike Variable said in like a very vague way, but should be playing, which will in turn get some pressure on that quarterback. So if the Titans are available, I would also, or if the Eagles aren't available and the Titans are available, grab the Titans. Definitely a solid play there. So anyways, let's get into our stardom situm question of the day real quick before we get into our beer that we're drinking on. And this is in a Superflex league. We'll be real quick about it. We were asked, do I start in a Superflex league Derek Carr at the Panthers or Ryan Tannehill at the Broncos? John, what is your answer?
I'm going to have to go with Ryan Tannehill at the Broncos in this situation. The main reason for it is their defense doesn't really seem to pose too much of a threat. I mean, they had a semi-solid defense starting the season with Von Miller going down and missing the season. I think that opens up a lot of holes for the Titans to exploit, with the Titans defense shutting down the Broncos defense, the Broncos offense possibly. You're going to be getting a lot of opportunity for the Titans to be putting up points and for Ryan Tannehill to have the ball in his hands. Now, when you go over to Oakland, again, we're questionable at the receiver situation. We know they have 2 rookies coming in, which is possibly what's coming in with Denver. But the entirety of that Broncos offense, even with Drew Lock there, I think will function a lot more smoothly than what you're going to be getting out of Oakland this year. And with Carolina's quarterback situation, with Teddy Bridgewater coming in there, I do know their defense lost Luke Kuechly, obviously. I don't know what the Panthers are really going to do. They could have the ball in their hands a long time. They could not allow the Raiders to be able to put up points or to do a lot. I know what Tannehill's going to do, and I think he's going to be seeing an upgrade from what he was last year, just due to more play and more comfortability in that offense. So I would take Tannehill against the Broncos this week.
Yeah, I agree there. They did lose Von Miller, like you said, for the season, unfortunately, so they're not going to get that pressure on the quarterback as much. Both teams, I think, are going to run the ball a ton, one with Josh Jacobs and one with Derrick Henry. But Ryan Tannehill thrives on that play-action pass, and with Jonnu Smith there, with A.J. Brown, I definitely think the big play is going to be a little bit easier for him to capitalize on, as well as the rushing ability of Ryan Tannehill. He does have legs, so he could get, he'll have that a little bit of rushing upside there as well. So I agree. I'm going to grab Ryan Tannehill as my flex in a super flex league. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was our show. But before we leave, let's get into our beer of the day. It was a good one. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Like I said, we were drinking on the Sante Belgian IPA from Lord Hobo. If we're saying it wrong, let us know. Sante, Sant, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, Lord Hobo was founded in 2015. They're one of the fastest growing breweries in the United States. And they distribute in 15 states already. So 5 years ago, they started already distributing in 15 states. And in 2020, guess how many barrels they're going to be brewing, John?
Tell me.
Guess.
2 million.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot. I think that's like maybe Budweiser or something like that. But 50,000. Yes.
No way.
50,000.
Genius.
I saw you delete that. I'm just kidding. So in they're located in Woburn, Massachusetts, and they expanded just in May of 2020 this year to a 500-person capacity tap room. So quite a big spot. And then they're going to be opening satellite locations starting in Boston's Seaport. Overall, I mean, I enjoyed the beer. John, you wanna tell them about what's in it, how they make it, what the deal is?
Yeah, let me just tell you all of that stuff. So this is going to be, as we said, a Belgian IPA. It is going to be a 6% IBU.
6% ABV.
ABV, I'm sorry. We were unable to find an IBU. Belgian IPAs generally do go in that 50 to 75 range. So somewhere pretty bitter. This one, on the other hand, bitterness is held pretty well. It does give you those a little bit of a citrusy smell hidden underneath, like a weedy aroma. They do malt. They do add a good amount of malts and hazes into this. I'm sorry, malts with their hops. So I did enjoy this one. It's a pretty mildly bitter yet semi-sweet with a little bit of sourness to it. Kind of hit a little bit of all the flavors with it strongly being that IPA.
Mm-hmm. Just to give you a quick little background on the Belgian IPA, they use various malts, but they're finished with Belgian yeast strains. So the hops tend to lean more towards the American style. The can art on there is, pretty cool. You can kind of get the Belgian feel of it. There's like a crown at the very top, which is the Lord Hobo logo. And then there's two lion. Would you say the wolves? Maybe wolves, dogs.
They're wolves.
Yeah, wolves. Cheersing, giving a little cheers together. Hey. So some hops around it, like a nice orange goldish wrapper on the can. So overall, pretty solid beer. I kind of get a little burnt caramel or something smell out of it, like a sweet.
A little bit of sweetness. Yeah. I do get a mild sweetness. It's not a sugary sweetness, but it's because I don't know if it's the citrus coming out, but I do get more of a banana, something with a sweet. That's a good mild. Yep. That isn't too overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But you do get a lot of the wheat the hoppy flavor coming through with that IPA coming out. Mm-hmm. Pretty overall, really good beer. A really solid IPA for me as someone who's not their biggest fan. Would definitely drink it again and again. And I think I'm going to rate it like a 7.5.
Wow, you read my mind.
Really? Yeah, it's nothing wrong with it. And
it's just good.
It's good.
It's solid.
It's not that it's bland or basic. It's good. I know there was another beer that we did that we said like there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing good with it.
Right.
There's some good flavors coming out of this, and it's really interesting. So I again, that 7.5 is going to go for me.
Yep, me too. Yep, 7.5 on my end as well. Check out their website at lordhobobrewing.com. You can check out their beers that they currently offer. You can check out, where their tap room's located. You can connect with them and all that good stuff. And then at the bottom of their page, of course, they have a Find Our Beer button. So go on their website, find out where the closest Lord Hobo Sante Belgian IPA is, and grab a 4-pack, grab a 6-pack, grab it for the buddies, hang out, watch some football. So, anyways, John, let them know where they can send any questions they have. I still can't believe we're in season.
Yeah, so incredibly happy to have you guys here for this 2020 season. We are going to be needing any of you guys' beer review requests. If you guys have anyone near you, any breweries near you, send it to us. It's going to be at the Fantasy Tap on Gmail. On Twitter and Instagram, and thefantasytap.com.
You good over there?
It's a little late.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry. It's gonna be. Yeah, it's early. We did stay up for that Thursday night game, but so it's gonna be thefantasytap@gmail.com if you guys want to send us through that in an email, and then at thefantasytap on Twitter and Instagram, and then also make sure to send your guys fantasy football advice. We do have our Sunday live stream coming up. It's going to be a little quicker, a little briefer than what we have usually. We're not going to be doing that mock draft. But we will be there to answer any of your guys' start-sit advice, hit you guys up with any last-minute injury advice or injury breaking news, because you're going to want to know who's going in and who's not. Thank you so much for coming out. Really happy to have you again.
You guys have been awesome. Glad we're back to football, baby. Let's get them wins this week. Listen to, our advice, I guess is what I'd say. But anyways, like John said, YouTube, Instagram, live Sunday. See you then.